Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of this e-trike build. Today we're going to be getting a little wiring finished and getting the battery hooked up so that this thing will go under its own power, hopefully over 25 miles per hour.
I think you forgot there's not any brakes on there.
On the last part of this build, we installed this wheel. So if you have not watched that already, go back, click the link up here, and watch that video first. So let's get into wiring this whole bike up, including wiring up this controller, getting all the wires from the brakes and the throttle, and connecting it all back to our battery. So first things first, we're going to route these brake wires, if you have brake wires, or your throttle wires. They'll be routed in the same sort of section. To route these wires all together, I would recommend using one of these PVC cable routers. It'll make it have a more clean look, and you won't have wires all over the place. There's really only one place to mount your controller if you have a bike, and that would be like right behind the seat post. Now, if you have a trike like me, you could put it right back here. That would work too. But if you have a bike, obviously you have a spinning wheel right there, so I wouldn't recommend putting a controller next to that. These controllers short out really easily if they get any water on them. Okay, I just got back from like a 10-mile ride with this bike, and we did go through some mud. All the components did get wet, but they should be rated for that. Although we do have one problem now. The motor won't spin. The motor, I got all the way back home and tried to turn it on, and the motor, when it spin at all, it would budge a little bit, and then it would just shut off. I've tested the battery's good. I've tested the controller by swapping it out with another one, and it still has the same problem. The motor does not spin. So to show you here, the controller is on. When I try to spin the throttle, so I'm spinning the throttle all the way. Maybe. There you go, spinning the throttle, and still nothing is happening. But you can hear, hopefully you can hear that small little clicking noise in there. So I'm gonna email the company and we'll see what they say. Okay, I've connected yet another controller. So this is the third controller on here. It works again, like it should. But last time the same thing happened. I put on a new controller. It worked for like 5 minutes and then stopped working again. So I'm gonna use it a little bit more and see if it'll continue working. If it continues working, then I guess we solved the problem. If it stops working again, then we know there's something wrong with the motor that keeps on frying these controllers. Okay, after a few more days of riding, we determined that it actually was the controller that went bad, because everything else is functioning perfect with the electronics. So I guess lesson learned, keep this out of any wet conditions, which is kind of lame, but now let's go back a few days and finish wiring up this whole bike. Now, okay, so if you see on this side of the handlebars, we have a shifter for our 7-speed cassette. And the throttle that came with the bike, it's made to go on the right side, and it would mess with the shifter. So I'm not gonna actually use the throttle that came with it. Instead, I got this other one laying around, which goes on the left side of the handle. Now to install these grips, it's gonna be the same for the one that comes with it. You're gonna have to figure out how to take off the grip on your bike. Now it can be different for a bunch of different bikes, but usually they just spin off like this. Sometimes it's gonna take a pair of pliers, and you're gonna have to freaking wrench on them to get them off. Then you're also gonna have to get off your brake levers, which usually just come off with an Allen wrench. And actually, if you're installing the factory one, you're not even gonna have to take off your brake lever, because it's gonna slide right over it. Okay, now that we got our throttle installed, for you it might be over here. Now we're gonna run this cable from the throttle all the way back to the controller, wherever you have the controller. I would run it along with your motor wire, just so that it all stays neat. And another tip is for when you're putting this wire on, make sure you play into effect that the handlebars are going to turn. So you want to full tilt or full turn. That's where you want to tighten it down at so that there's slack. Okay, the whole wiring for this bike is pretty simple. The first thing you gotta plug in is your throttle. So coming all the way up from your handlebars, you got this one plug here, that's all you have. Coming from the front wheel, you have your hall sensor wires, and then you have your phase wires. Phase wires plug in a variety of different ways depending on what came with your kit. The other wires here are your 750 watt road legal wires. If you really want to use those, you just plug them in and then that limits it. You have your pedal assist system that you can plug in here if you choose to use that. Then you have your brake cutoffs right here if you choose to use those. And right here, this plug is directly from the battery. So it's, in my case, it's a 52 volt, in your case it might be 48. And so if you have, they make these light bulbs that are 12 to 80 volts that you can throw on the front of your bike. So that's basically the only thing that you would use that for. Now really the only other thing that you'll have to worry about plugging in is your battery positive and negative. What I like to use are these things called XT90 connectors. So they plug into each other just like this. Boom. This one, I usually use this one for the battery. So the female end, and then I use the male end for the kit. And so what you'll do, I'll show you in a time lapse, but you'll solder the positive and the negative to each terminal on this. Do the same thing for the battery, and then you got yourself a waterproof connection. Make sure to line up the positive and the negative side with the positive and negative on the controller and the battery. Now to finish off your wiring, all you have left to do is connect the battery to your controller. That should be the very last step. If you ordered the hard-sided case and it fit inside this triangle perfectly, then you're set to go. You strap it up, you plug it in, and then you're good to go. Now if you're like me and the hard case would not fit inside this area, go click on my next video right up in this corner and it'll show you how exactly to go from a hard-sided case to a soft-sided case. So once you got your battery connected, your controller connected, and the two systems connected to each other, let's hop on our bikes, power it on, and go for a ride. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please consider subscribing and checking out all the other videos of part 1 and the range test that should be coming soon. So subscribe, turn on post notifications to get notified of any new videos on the trike or any other project that I decide to do. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.